you guide companies in the range of 0 to 25 billion ARR. With all the experience that you've had across these industries and companies that you grew to be a unicorn status, what's the fundamental building block that a company should look at to get their sales right?
The first has to be, you've got to build a really good product that solves a particular pain point in the market. So if the idea is not powerful enough, I don't care how good you are at sales, you're not going to be able to scale it. And then it comes down to really locking in on who your ideal customer profile is. A lot of people build a product and think, oh, this is for everybody. Well, it's not. It's certainly not for everybody. In the beginning, it should be, who is the lowest hanging fruit here? Who feels this pain the most? And the third phase would be,
you guide companies in the range of 0 to 25 billion ARR. With all the experience that you've had across these industries and companies that you grew to be a unicorn status, what's the fundamental building block that a company should look at to get their sales right?
the first has to be, you've got to build a really good product that solves a particular pain point in the market. So if the idea is not powerful enough, I don't care how good you are at sales, you're not going to be able to scale it. And then it comes down to really locking in on who your ideal customer profile is. A lot of people build a product and think, oh, this is for everybody. Well, it's not. It's certainly not for everybody. In the beginning, it should be, who is the lowest hanging fruit here? Who feels this pain the most? And the third phase would be,
welcome to Edbound with Kinner, Scott. I'm so honored to have you with me today. Such a big fan of your work. I follow you on LinkedIn. I'm really honored to have you here, to be honest.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome. So I know you're based out of Austin. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I moved here about 13 years ago from San Francisco. So it's been a fun ride watching Austin kind of grow up and mature and get bigger and more popular and all that stuff. So been cool.
Yeah, I mean, the power center kind of, moved to New York and Austin and a couple of other places in the US. I mean, I hear so many great founders and people in the startup ecosystem moving all the time to these places.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the epicenter is San Francisco Bay Area for sure. And I think New York is probably number 2. But Austin is right there battling, Boston and I don't know where else, but it's right there at like number 3, I think.
Yeah,
Been a good move for me.
Yeah, no, great place. But, coming back to your profile, I mean, you have such a stellar career, such a great background and so many successes. I mean, you've been a sales leader, a founder, an author. I mean, you've got all these great numbers and unimaginable kind of growth rates. So how do you actually really introduce yourself in a room? I mean, I'm like eager to hear about that.
Well, I try not to list all the different things that I do or am working on because it starts to sound obnoxious to me. So, I just sort of say I've spent the last 20 plus years as a sales leader building and scaling sales teams, and I've worked for 5.5 years now as an entrepreneur running my own businesses. I run a consulting business, an events business, a community business. So yeah, that's kind of the short answer that I usually tell people.
Yeah, so much that you've achieved, especially in the sales domain. I mean, when I looked at some of the research that my team had done, I mean, I could see that you're counted in one of the top 3 sales coach leaders, globally, which is such an exciting thing. And I know you built this over the years across your career. Now, what do you think is the reason that you really succeeded so well in sales and not maybe in other domains that you could have also kind of been in, right? I mean, is there a natural inclination, love?
I don't think there was a natural inclination for me. It was not something I studied in school. It was not something that I did as a kid or as a university student or anything like that. It was for me more of a conscious choice. It was recognizing that sales is one of the few careers where the harder you work and the better you do, the more you're rewarded. And so I saw it as a good path towards an unlimited income and a different type of a lifestyle. And I really threw myself into that and kind of became a student of the game, if you will. I was always thinking about it, always wanting to get better, always looking for new advantages, new ways I could work harder or, get an advantage on somebody else. And, quickly kind of worked my way up into leadership and then did that for a while on its own. And then I started dabbling in entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, it was a conscious choice to say, hey, this is interesting. I've found a job where if you work harder and do better than the person next to you, you get paid more. And that resonates with me. It reminds me of a professional athlete, for example. If you're really good football player and you work harder than other people and you perform better than everybody else, you get a bigger contract. If you don't perform well and you don't work hard, you get sacked and you're out, right? And you get fired. So I understood that, and that appealed to me more than, let's say, an engineering role where two engineers can sit side by side and one is twice as productive, but they get paid the same amount. That just like didn't resonate with me. I'm like, how can that be fair? So it was a choice for me to go into this profession, a very strategic choice as a way to, yeah, just like I said, kind of pursue higher levels of income and open up more doors for me.
Wow. Now, I know that you guide companies in the range of 0 to 25 billion ARR. I mean, coming from your LinkedIn profile, with all the experience that you had across these industries and, so many companies that you grew to be a unicorn status, what's the fundamental building block that a company should look at to get their sales right? Right. I mean, imagine someone just starting out, like a founder that's never cracked it. They don't come
Yeah.
with the sales DNA.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first issue has to be you've got to build a really good product that solves a particular pain point in the market. And it's got to be a pain point that is powerful and strong enough that compels somebody to want to do something about it. So if the idea is not powerful enough, I don't care how good you are at sales, you're not going to be able to scale it, you know, to 25, 100 million and so forth. So it begins with solving the right type of problem. And then it comes down to really, really locking in on who your ideal customer profile is. That's ICP as it's known. And a lot of people screw up the ICP. You build a product and you think, oh, this is for everybody. Well, it's not for everybody. It's certainly not for everybody right now in the beginning. In the beginning, it should be, who is the lowest hanging fruit here? Who feels this pain the most? Who is the easiest to get a hold of? Who's liable to make decisions the fastest? Who are we able to show a return on investment or the impact of our product or solution or our work quickly, right? That builds momentum. It validates some product market fit. And that is very elusive for people. And people get it wrong. They overinflate their ideal customer profile size quite a bit. And so really, really shrinking that down and being hyper specific with that is sort of the second phase. And the third phase would be, whatever your product is, you need to simplify the messaging. You need to be able to articulate what problem you solve, why somebody should care about solving that problem, why they need to solve it right away, right now, instead of 6 months from now or a year from now. And you need to be able to articulate what you do, how you solve it, why you solve it bigger, better, faster, cheaper than other people, and how you help assist them get up to speed. And you cannot deliver that type of message in a complicated way. It can't be too technical. It can't be too long. You have to be able to talk just like a normal person. You should be able to go to your friends who are not even from the industry and just tell them like, hey, this is what I'm working on. And they get it right away. And if you can't do that, your messaging is too complicated at the moment, right? And if you're talking to prospects and they don't really get it, then you're not really articulating the pain that they have and the problem that they have strongly enough. So that's the three things I think about when you ask me that question is build the right product that solves an actual
Yeah.
big pain out there in the market, lock in your ideal customer profile, make it very specific, and then simplify the messaging as much as you can.
So I'll try and peel a few layers of what you just mentioned. And I think it's a fantastic 3-step formula. But think about someone coming to you because they need your help, your consulting, coaching service, and they come to you and say, I'm building a CRM, commoditized to the T. Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
know how many CRMs are out
Yeah.
there, right? But
Right.
they'll tell you they've layered it with a little bit of AI that kind of does 2 or 3 things better. Now, my question's going to be, so when you talk about an ICP, would you really say yes to these guys? Because, I mean, would you be ready to help these guys? Because they've already built the product. Maybe they're 6 months, 7 months in.
I don't know. It depends. It depends on, do I believe that there is some sort of unique identifier or marker or 2 or 3 or 4 that separates them from everybody else out there in the market? Like, what's the angle? What's different? What's new? What's unique? It would depend on the founder. And do I think they have a good head on their shoulders? Do I think that they are a good manager, a good leader, a good salesperson? Do I think that they will listen and implement feedback? Or do I think they'll be stubborn and do things however they want to do and ignore my advice? Do I think they're a quick, fast communicator? Do I think they'll execute quickly on the things that I'm suggesting? Or do I think they'll, say, oh, sorry, Scott, I didn't get to that this week. I'll have it to you next time. And then they miss next time and they miss deadlines all over the place. Like, these are the things that I'm kind of, vetting out and really trying to understand from somebody before I would just say, yeah, sure, let's work together. Off we go. No, I want to make sure that you really have a high probability of succeeding based on implementing feedback, doing it the right way, leading teams the right way. And if I don't feel like those things are all aligned, then I'm very hesitant to say yes to people because I don't feel confident that I can make an impact. And if I can't make an impact, that doesn't reflect well on me. It only reflects well on me if I'm able to quantify the impact on folks, right? So it's important to find the right partners. The same way I was just saying a company needs to find their ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
So do I. So do I. So does any consultant. You need to understand your ideal customer profile as well.
So if you love these guys, and let's imagine good head on the shoulders, CRM that looks generic to begin with, they have a few differentiators and, you have to now guide them on the ICP identification. And I know that you kind of suggest people, they have to be really specific and, to be able to drive growth, they have to kind of like go super sharp. So what should they do? I mean, what would that process look like if you were trying to help them with the ICP identification?
I think it could be trying to identify an industry that is maybe not as saturated or commoditized. Like if I go try to sell a CRM into the SaaS and tech world, that's going to be very, very difficult. But if I go try to sell a CRM into the legal world specifically, or the accounting world specifically, there might be less competitors there. There might be less implementation of such a tool. So there's a lot of people still using Excel or pen and paper. You see what I'm saying? So that might be a place for me to get some early traction, build a foothold, distinguish myself. So when somebody says, well, aren't you just like Salesforce? I can say, well, no, actually, Salesforce is this big, huge, massive thing. It's built for the enterprise. It's built for software companies and tech companies. It's not built for your 10-person accounting firm. Here's how we've constructed this to make it better for your small accounting firm, that type of thing. So that's one particular angle that, somebody might pursue. Maybe there's a slicker, better interface and it just looks sexier, right? Maybe somebody can say, who's built this product you're talking about, maybe somebody can say, name the 10 things that you dislike the most about HubSpot. And they name those things off and you're like, well, guess what, Kinner? Guess what? We solved all 10 of those things. None of those 10 things are problematic in our CRM. Let me show you exactly what I mean. That might be powerful to somebody. So again, you have to have something to distinguish yourself and stand out. Could be industry, could be features, could be taking direct customer feedback from these competitor platforms and solving exactly what everybody wishes would get solved. I don't know the answer, but it's very rarely like, oh yeah, we're just like HubSpot, we're just cheaper. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. There has to be a unique value proposition of some sort.
What I hear from a lot of my friends, and they get into this trap, and I think I have faced that myself in the SaaS product that we've run for a very long while. You get signals from multiple types of ICPs, and I understand it now. I mean, go niche is the, like they say, riches are in the niches. So I mean, when the signals are coming from around the industry, various industries, how do you then go and decide on that this is the type of customer that's going to respond the best? Because I mean,
I
that
mean, you're
kind of becomes a
in the very,
challenge.
yeah, in the very beginning, you're sort of taking a guess. You really are. And people don't like to hear that,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
but you don't know the answer. You're taking an informed guess. So for example, I might know that if I want to sell this CRM to lawyers, okay, I might know that lawyers are very, very difficult to get a hold of on the phone, and they all have a secretary in the office. So I might say, well, that's going to be a particular barrier to entry. I'm not going to be able to have as many conversations as fast. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I might think, well, what if I sell this to real estate agents? Because real estate agents live on their cell phone. They don't have a secretary. So it'll be easier to get a hold of them so I can have more conversations. So you're using sort of historical data, historical information, a little bit of a gut feel, right? These types of things. Same thing with geography. At least in America, the coast, the East Coast, the West Coast, even the Gulf Coast in the South tend to adopt new ideas, new technologies faster than the middle part of the country. So if I'm
Yeah.
taking this CRM to market for the first time, I'm probably not calling Wyoming or South Dakota or Nebraska. I'm probably focusing on California, New York, Massachusetts, Texas, Florida, places like this, right? So you're partially and partially guessing, and you're looking for places where you get traction. And if I start to get traction in one place, I double down in that particular area. And I don't worry about selling
Mm,
to other areas, other places. I'm like, let me get really good at selling real estate in Florida. That's where we're going
yeah.
to get our first traction. Great. I'm not moving on to the next thing until I figure that motion out in a repeatable, successful kind of way.
Yeah, yeah. No, you talk about some fantastic GTM playbooks, and there's one standard one that you would possibly hand over to some, let's say, a startup that's kind of getting early traction, maybe $500,000, 250K to 500,000 kind of revenue. Now, I understand all the ICP tweaks, experiments, and the three steps that you mentioned. But what would that GTM playbook look like?
Yeah, this is a sort of modern day hack because cold calling and cold emailing simply doesn't work as good as it used to. And capital is harder to come by for early stage startup founders. It's a lot harder to raise seed money or Series A money and, hire some salespeople and start testing and all that kind of thing. So instead of doing that stuff, the easiest thing you can do is find well-connected people in your space or in your industry. Could be a, accounting guru who's on the speaker circuit. Could be a thought leader in the real estate space. If you're selling into tech and SaaS, it could be LinkedIn influencers. What you do is you reach out to these people and you say, hey, you've got a big network. I don't know if you know whoever the buyer persona is. Like, I don't know if you know any VPs of sales or not, but we solve this particular problem for them. If you're ever interested in referrals and affiliate work and making some extra money, I'd love to talk to you about that. And so you sign up a bunch of referral partners, basically. And then you put a list of prospects you're trying to talk to in front of them. And then that referral partner looks at the list and says, oh, I know these 3 or 4 people. I reach out to those people, assuming they're interested in taking a meeting with you. I book a couple meetings for you. And if those deals close, now you're paying me 10, 20, 30% in a referral fee. And founders can run this motion without ever having to hire a salesperson. It doesn't cost anything. There's no ad spend or anything like that. There's no tech even required, right? All that's required is you reaching out to people like me, perhaps, and saying, hey, Scott, you're well connected in SaaS. You know, do you do any referral work? Well, yes, I do. Well, do you know any VPs of sales? Yeah, I know a lot of them. Okay, well, our average deal size is 50 grand. I'm happy to pay you 20% on any deal that closes. I'm going to be over here thinking to myself, shit, if I know the right people, I'm going to make $10,000 a pop just for making an intro. I don't even have to sell anybody. Beautiful. Send me the list. Who do you want to talk to? I look at the list. I know 5 people. I reach out to those 5 people. They agree to take meetings. I broker the meeting. I get out of the way and I wait for you to close the deal and then I get paid. This is the easiest way for early stage startup founders to go from 0 to their first million. The easiest way possible. Right? If I know even 2 people a month, okay, and you have a 50K average deal size, that's 100K of pipeline I just opened for you. All right. If you had 10 versions of me, that's $1 million of pipeline. Think about that. You want to open $1 million of pipeline, sign 10 networked people, see if they can't make 2 introductory meetings for you. There's $1 million of pipeline. If you can close 30% of that, it's $300,000 of revenue. Do that for 3 months, you're at 900K of revenue. Do it for 6 months, you're over $1 million. Or wow, you can make hundreds of cold calls a day, send hundreds of emails a day, deal with constant rejection, frustration, all this kind of stuff. Choice is yours, right? And so I've been talking about this for a couple years and been teaching my clients and anybody who will listen to implement this strategy. And yeah, it's working really well.
Wow. And you respond to cold messages, right? I mean, if someone messages you with this offer, like you mentioned, you would look at it, but it's still cold.
I do. I just did one today because I understand how powerful this motion is. And I understand what's in it for me. It is an easy way for me to make some additional income. It's as simple as that. You know, I like helping people. I'd like to help the vendor. I'd like to help their prospect, but I also like to help myself, right? I'm not trying to hide that in any way. Okay. So yeah, I get those messages. I got one this morning. This guy asking me if I know chief marketing officers. I said, well, you know, I know some. I don't know that I'll be the most productive referral partner, but why not? Let me take a look at it. Sure. Tell me what you guys do. Let me see the product. And now I have to vet and make sure that, you know, I believe in this product because I don't want my name associated with something that's not good or doesn't work. But assuming I believe in it, yeah, why would I not try to help everybody? You know? So the key is just finding the right people who have this same kind of attitude about things.
So that's a great hack for 0 to 1 million. Would you recommend that the playbook that you suggest complement it with something else? And how do you go from then 1 million further up? You know, what does the motion look like? And most of our listeners, yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, you scale that motion up I just talked about by just adding more affiliate partners. So rather than 10, you sign up 20. Rather than 20, you sign up 50. Rather than 50, you sign up 100. You can keep going. You can have an infinite number. Rather than sending them 1 list a month, maybe you send them 2 lists every month. Maybe send them 3 lists every month. But this is not the only thing that you're going to, you know, do. You still have to try to incorporate cold calling, cold emailing, social selling, in-person events, direct mail, perhaps, conferences, meetups, all of the things that people do. But this is a cost-free method to building pipeline and closing deals. You're only spending, if a deal closes, it's akin to having commission-only salespeople out there. There's no risk involved, right? So it needs to be a part of everybody's sales motion. And you need to incorporate other things as well, because not everybody's going to respond to, you know, a referral right? You're not going to be able to know everybody. There'll be some people you need to get a hold of that this referral motion is not working for at the moment. So you meet somebody at a conference, you meet them at a happy hour, you door knock and go to their business, you whatever, you called them, you emailed them, all these things. So it's a part of the strategy. It's not the only strategy. And that's how you scale. You get good at lots of different strategies and motions
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah. I have managed a team of about 20 salespeople, but I think I made almost all the mistakes possible. I know that some of the, companies that you have led, I found out Main Street Hub, where I think you
Oh,
went
yeah.
from about two to 200 salespeople.
Yeah.
So what's the exact hiring and onboarding playbook? If somebody's hiring the first one and they're going to do maybe two to three people to begin with, and then eventually scale that.
Well, one thing I always tell people is hiring just one person in the beginning is a mistake because that person has nobody to compete with. They have nobody to share ideas with, and they can end up kind of hanging out and hiding out for a while before you realize they're not very good. And hiring in sales is really, really difficult to get right, even if you've been doing it a long time. So, if I hire 3 people, I probably figure one of them will be great, one of them will be good, one of them probably won't work out. In the very beginning, I need to understand like the profile for each of these people. Like this mid-market experienced person did well. This SMB experienced person did well. This enterprise experienced person did not do well. Why did that happen? And then moving forward, I start to have the ability to optimize exactly who my ICP is for an account executive role. Right. So if you can, when you go to make these hires, I like to hire 3 at once because I expect 2 to work out and 1 not to. And then I learn from that. You need to hire stage appropriate people. You need to hire people who are used to small, early stage startups that are risky, chaotic, don't have branding, don't have a bunch of warm leads. It requires a particular amount of grit and hustle and scrappiness and effort that you just simply are not forced to rely on if you work at Oracle. I see too many startups hire like, let's hire Scott. He used to work at IBM. He must be really good. It's like, not for your 2-person startup. That's not the right kind of person. You're optimizing for creativity, for initiative, for competitiveness, for entrepreneurial spirit, somebody who wants to be a part of building something special. Not, I'm open to it. You're looking for, I want it. There's a big difference between somebody who's willing to do something and somebody who knows they have to do something. I don't want to work at a big company. I want to work specifically at an early stage company. That's the type of mindset I want, not somebody who says, well, I'm open to either. That's not the right sentence to get hired by me. Let's put it that
So
way.
you're suggesting bake these questions right at the
100%.
screening stage.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. 100%. Why is the startup the right place for you, Kinner? Why not go work at Salesforce? My company, Scott.com, super risky. We barely have product market fit. What's attractive about that to you? And I want to know somebody's answer. I want to hear their response. I want to hear them say, well, Scott, because if I close $1 million of revenue for you, I'm a legend. I'm a hero. I'm a legend. It means something. I matter. If I go close $1 million for Oracle today, I'm a line item on a spreadsheet. I mean nothing. I don't have any interaction with the CEO or founder. I barely have any interaction with the executive team. I don't mean anything. So I don't want to hire the person who is like, well, I'm happy to work at either. I don't want that person. I want the person who gives me that answer where they say, I want to mean something. I want to matter. I want to make an impact, right? I want to build something. You're optimizing for that type of attitude in your initial sales hires. You should be.
Yeah. And do you also build a playbook or an onboarding document or a guide that you kind of expect everybody to just, maybe
Yes, absolutely.
remember?
You should. Nah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say remember. I would say study and learn and then utilize these supporting documents as necessary. So I hire somebody from scratch. What's the first thing I have to do? Well, I have to teach them the industry. If they don't come from the industry, I have to teach them the industry. So let's say we're selling to the space sector, since I have my NASA shirt on. Okay. I don't know anything about the space sector. So I need to learn who are the major players? What is the terminology? How do these type of businesses make money? All this kind of stuff. I need to learn the industry. Okay. Then I need to learn the product. What actually are we selling them? How does it work? I need to be able to use it. If somebody says to me, Scott, show me how you do X, Y, Z in the product, I better know how to do it. Right. After that, I need to learn the process. How do I find leads? What stages are we using? How do I know if something is an opportunity or not? How do I actually close a deal? Let's say I have somebody on the hook right now who wants to buy from me. What do I do? Do I send a contract? Do I send a credit card link? Do I take their credit card information over the phone? I mean, I don't know. Do we use DocuSign? What are we using? Right. And then the last thing is, what am I supposed to say? That's all messaging. Like, what's our pitch? What's our talk track? How do I talk about what we do? How do I overcome objections? How do I talk about the competitors that we're liable to face? How do I articulate the ROI? Right. So you have to bake all of these things into the onboarding process if you really want to hire somebody into a optimal chance of succeeding. In the absence of all these things, you're hiring somebody into a high probability of failure because you're just bringing them in and you're like, okay, Scott, good luck. Figure it out. I figured it out. Ask me questions if you have questions. That very, very rarely works. Very rarely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I know you built multiple revenue communities like GTM United, Surf and Sales, also one of those, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would consider that to be one of them. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So is it a good idea for startups in the $1 million, $2 million race to think about community building
Yes.
early on?
Yes.
Um,
100 million%. Yes. More important than ever before, I think. Yeah.
so when you mention
Involve them
about,
in what you're doing. Involve them in what
okay,
you're doing. Get feedback from them about what's working and what's not working. Right? Utilize them as a way to get more business. So let's say that, you're based in New York City and you're a client of mine. I might reach out and say, hey, Kinner, I'm going to host a dinner in New York City. I'm going to try to invite 10 prospects of ours to this dinner. I'd love for you to come. You don't need to be a salesperson for me, but if people ask you, how do you know Scott? Tell them you're a customer of ours. Give them your honest feedback, what you like, what you don't like, right? I'll buy you dinner. You can network a little bit, right? Involve them. All of these things, you can create Slack channels for customers, involve them in different product decisions, marketing campaigns. All of that stuff should be done from the beginning, I think, nowadays. This is how people make decisions nowadays, based on feedback from somebody else.
so you suggest that even while we are building that referral network, trying different things, this should be an important part of the early playbook, right?
I believe it should be an important part, yes.
Now, the concept that we advocate a lot, so we stand for building academies. Like that's what our platform initially was. I mean, we've had almost 1.5 million users from 50 plus countries, and we've powered a lot of organizations with academy based marketing. So the idea is that, you use content like online courses, white papers, ebooks to generate leads and thought leadership, and also sprinkle all that content within your community, bring people on that will also create content with you. So is there I mean, let me just, actually, the question comes from the fact that you were in sales, you've led sales, but when you become an entrepreneur, it's no longer just about sales. You're also now the fractional CRO, so you're responsible for revenue. So how would you kind of connect these two? I mean, or would you see the importance of this content creation in the whole sales journey?
Yeah, content creation is prospecting now. I don't think people thought of it that way 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
now it is a form of prospecting. It's a touch point. I mean, I create content specifically to draw attention to what I do and the different businesses that I run, and to flip from having to do outbound to getting inbound. My content is a demand generation tool to drive inbound leads to myself that I then convert. I mean, most people, I think, in SaaS and tech recognize this and have started, getting on board that kind of program and utilizing that stuff. It is essential, I think, for founders and salespeople to be building a network every day, engaging with that network every day, and eventually authoring and creating their own content every day.
So when you come on board as a fractional CRO, or you're kind of helping a startup go from that 0 to 25 million journey, would content creation be part of the entire playbook that
Yes.
you'll try and implement?
Yes, 100% it is. First I try to get them to recognize they need to grow their network. So I don't start off on day one saying, start creating content. I start off on day one by saying, you need to grow your network. You need to start adding 10, 15, 20 people every single day. Once they get into that habit, and so it becomes easy for them, then I say, okay, now you need to start commenting on other people's content. This is how you start to find your own voice. This is how you start to be recognized a little bit. It's also how you can pick up some inbound connection requests. So there's a compounding effect on network growth, and you find your writing style of sorts, and you start to disseminate how you think about things. And then when you're comfortable with those two motions, now I tell people, okay, now you're ready to start authoring and creating some of your own content. And you start off by, once or twice a week. And then when that becomes easy, let's move to 4 or 5 times. And then let's move to every day. So there's this progression of kind of brand building, content creation, and all that kind of stuff that I teach and install in the mindset and activity of founders and sales leaders that I work with.
Oh, I think, yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, using it in prospecting and building. I mean, like, this is a first that I've heard, that the way you recommended finding your voice with commenting and the slow steps. So I think this is fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
is it only coaching when we, because I see that as one of the services listed on your offer page, and I mean the fractional CRO. So how would you come into a company, identify or diagnose the real GTM problem, and then go about fixing it? Where there's something happening, or is that not going to be part of the approach?
That is the approach. That is the approach. I mean, the first thing I do is I try to get them to self-diagnose. So I say, tell me what you think is going on. What's busted? What's broken? So most people have a lot of good ideas or a decent understanding of what's busted. The people who don't have a good idea, that requires me to ask some probing questions to try to uncover it, right? But once you have an idea of what some of the problems are, I've been doing this long enough to know, okay, well, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to attack this particular problem or this particular challenge. So it's part strategy, part implementation, part coaching, part advisoryship, part execution. It's all of those things at once. And for me, I'm working on strategy. I'm working on playbooks. I'm working on messaging. I'm working on coaching. I'm working on referral and partner programs. I'm working on recruiting. We work on rev ops and sales ops and tooling. All of these things are part of what we either install for the first time or rebuild for the clients that we are working with. Right? And what
And
we focus on first depends on what we think is busted. Right?
yeah, yeah. What's the most commonly busted part of the whole motion that you come across?
The most commonly busted, probably just the messaging, frankly. People
Wow.
struggling to figure out how to pitch their product and service in the right way. I'm always having to rewrite sales pitches, demo pitches, competitive talk tracks, objections and rebuttals, copywriting for emails, copywriting for social posts and things like that. That is 100% of the time something that we have to fix and work on, I would say.
Mm.
100% of the time. Yeah.
copywriting is a superpower, right? I think it's
Yeah.
and you've got it. I mean, your content is just amazing. I mean,
Well,
some of
thank
the
you.
videos and text content, and I didn't expect that would be the biggest problem that you see. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it,
What
it
did you
makes
expect?
sense.
What did you expect I was going to say?
I actually not this. I mean, I had other things. They don't hire right every time something else needs to be fixed. But I mean, I didn't expect that almost.
I
I
think
mean, this would be the biggest one. Because I mean, a lot of
yeah,
companies that have figured and sold to a few people would know how to say things right? I mean, you would imagine that, okay,
mm,
you make that
not
mistake, maybe.
yeah, but not really. You can do things wrong and close deals. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
makes
I
sense.
can. I'm trying to think of good analogies, but like I can kick a soccer ball the wrong way and score a goal. It doesn't mean that I'm a good
Yeah,
shooter. It
yeah.
doesn't mean I'm a good shooter. I don't have good form. I get lucky. So people can go out there and try to sell their product totally the wrong way and close a deal or two, but it's not going to work at the rate required in order for them to scale and grow appropriately. So I have to go in and be like, okay, we don't want to start off each conversation this way. We don't want to handle this objection this particular way. There's a better way to do it. And we retool all that stuff. So there's always an element of we've got to go back to the basics here. Let's go back to the
Yeah.
basics. Let's look at what we're doing. Let's revisit things. Let's try to fix it.
And does this happen even for companies that have post product market fit, growing rapidly? You
Yeah.
see this happen all the time.
100% of the time because the company changes and evolves. Think about a
Yeah.
company that's at 50 million bucks. Okay. Well, at some point they have to layer in new products or services.
Yeah.
So that requires a new pitch. At some
Mm.
point they can't say, "Hey, we're the new guy on the block." Now they're like the 800-pound gorilla and they're trying to defend new companies coming after their market share. That
Mm.
requires a new talk track, right? Maybe they've changed the pricing and they're 4 times more expensive than they used to. Well, it requires a different talk track. Maybe they're going into a new region. You've crushed North America and now you're trying to expand to
Yeah.
Europe. That's different. You've got to pitch people differently in Europe than you do in America. So I think there's always an element of we need to be looking at how we're selling the product. I think a good cadence for companies is every 6 months or so, you should be looking at what's our messaging and copywriting, what's our talk track, how are we demoing, how are we talking to these things. It's a good idea to always be refreshing that stuff. You don't just build it once and that's your talk track for 20 years. That's not how it works.
With AI and LLMs, does it help? Could that be a sounding board for guys for this 6 months exercise, at least to make sure that they're kind of doing this in some way?
Well, I'm sure that the answer, if it's not yes right now, it will be yes in a very
Eventually,
short
yeah.
period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine a world where I upload my sales pitch to an LLM and I upload some data saying, I don't know, we've got a 30% connect rate, demo set rate of 17%, whatever the numbers are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then asking the LLM to say, how would you rewrite this based on all this
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
and all this anecdotal feedback I'm giving you about why deals die, da, 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 da. Give me one that will do 5% better, 10% better, and it'll spit it out to you. And right now, my faith and trust in that being a perfect piece of advice and guidance is very slim. But a year from now, 2 years from now, I don't know. It very well may be that easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So are they helping? Yes, I think they're helping, and it can be helpful in some of the ways that you're talking about.
So what I've tried to improve this evaluation in a lot of cases is grounding it in data. Let's say pick up a copywriting book that's kind of legendary, or pick up Ogilvy on advertising or something, frameworks are well set for this kind of messaging. So when you feed that in with your questions and say, based on what this book says, now suggest to me how it's wrong, you get like a huge leap of improvement.
Yeah. I think it might not, like I said, it might not be a perfect piece of
Yeah, it won't be. Yeah.
documentation, but it'll get you at least 50, 60, 70% of the way there.
Yeah.
So now I have this thing that has gotten me started, and I can just edit and fix up from there, and it saves me a truckload of time, and it's pretty darn good. And I
Yeah.
think over time, it will not be 50% good. It will be closer to 90% good in short order. And eventually it might be 100% exactly what I was looking for on the first try. I think that that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So one question that I'm wondering about, and this data, obviously we got off our research. You mentioned that quota attainment for most of the companies and people who do employ salespeople is super low. I mean, I read somewhere that you've quoted the number 40% industry wide. Is that right? I mean, do you believe that almost across industries, it's like that's what's happening?
I'm not sure what the data is for 2025, but the last few years, the numbers have been very, very poor. Very poor. And if I had to guess and forecast, I think they'll be pretty poor this year as well. That's a combination of instability and uncertainty, freezing up buyers and freezing up budgets. You combine that with difficulty in getting a hold of people because so many traditional outreach methods are just not working the way they used to.
Yes.
And, there's like tool consolidation. There's a whole kind of movement of do more with less. Companies are smaller and able to be more profitable with less people involved, which means you might not need as many complex tools. So I suspect the numbers will be quite low, especially when you consider how many companies put big, huge, virtually unattainable quotas in front of salespeople. And they ask them to turn miracles, you know? So unfortunately, yeah, if I had to guess, I think that number will probably be pretty similar this year.
So looking at the prediction that you're just mentioning about, what would be one piece of advice or a playbook suggestion that you'll give to someone to ensure that people do hit the quota? I mean, how would you?
Build as big a network as you possibly can. Lean on and utilize that network to open up opportunities for you. That is a surefire way right now to stand out, build pipeline, and close deals. And you're relying on humanity still. And I think that is the way to stand out right now. Do some human things rather than having AI try to do everything for you. That would be my main piece of advice to salespeople.
This is so different from what I usually hear. Could you, if you don't mind, would you?
Well,
Would you?
listen, when everything is automated and
Yeah.
AI'd out, you doing that does not stand out. You doing the opposite is what stands out. So when every single message is suspected to be written by an LLM and not a person, I'm not going to write you a message. I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to find you face to face. I'm going to zig when everybody else is zagging. I'm going to do the
Yeah.
opposite. When everybody's all in on AI, I'm going to be all in on being in person.
So in-person events, communities, dinners. I mean, some of the stuff that you suggested earlier.
Introductions, trust,
Yeah.
things where people are already starting to, but they will more and more crave human, just like humanity, human interaction. They won't get
Yeah.
it, right? You don't get it from the office as much because people work from home. You won't get it from phone calls because they're all automated. You won't get it from email because it's all automated. So what will stand out? Something that proves your authenticity and your humanity. That will stand out in an entirely AI and automated driven world. That I think is somebody's best bet right now.
Yeah. That is different.
And I'm glad. I'm glad it's different because it means that I will stand out even more.
Yeah, I think it is important to think like that, and I think it's let me tell you, I mean, 25 or 30 different conversations I've had with leaders in GTM and growth and marketing spaces. I think this makes a lot of sense to me. I do see it. So I do see that we've kind of hit
Yeah.
the 1 hour
Dang.
mark. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to kind of push more,
Yeah,
but
I got a call I got to get to here.
yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing so freely.
Oh, you're welcome.
How do I kind of leave the message with people if they want to get in touch with you? What's the best way?
The best way for people to find me is just find me on LinkedIn. Check
Yeah,
out my LinkedIn profile. From there, you can see all the different things that I'm up to, and it's the easy way to reach out to me. And if you've got questions, maybe I can be helpful to you. So happy to
yeah.
happy to respond to anybody who shoots me a note.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to kind of explore the possibility of, collaborating in some way. I look at these services and the way you kind of engage and, we'll share
Yeah.
more information about what we are trying to do. We're building, in the GTM space and UAE and as the primary market right now and India as a secondary market. I would love to explore possibilities of how we can benefit from your guidance and, everything that you kind of spoke about.
Sounds like a plan, man. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good one. Bye.